Welcome to another tale with Tales with Prushpin, in the ancient village of Ilaro, where the drums speak louder than the wind. A prince was born into pride and a servant's child was hidden from fate. One was raised to wear the crown, the other was never meant to live. But when death came knocking on the palace gates, only a boy could heal the heir, and his reward would shake the kingdom to its roots. This is the tale of betrayal, buried bloodlines, the healer who stole the throne.
In the heart of the mighty Yoruba village of Ilaro, where the talking drums echoed with pride and the market buzzed with ancient rhythm, lived Prince Adesina, the only son of Oba Adetokunbo, ruler of the land. Prince Adesina was tall, regal, and charming to behold, but his heart was poisoned by pride. He walked like the world was his footstool and spoke to others like they were insects. Even the elders heaped praise on him, fearing his sharp tongue more than they feared the gods. But pride, they say in Ilaro, is a silent poison the gods despise. One morning, as the sun broke through the palm trees, Prince Adesina slumped during a royal procession. His skin burned with unnatural heat. His eyes rolled back and he fell silent. The palace erupted in fear. The royal healers tried every herb. The priestesses offered sacrifices, and the king promised the gods riches, but nothing worked. The prince drifted near death for weeks. His body wasted, his breath slowed. The people of Ilaro, many of whom had once suffered under his arrogance, began to whisper, "This is not ordinary. The gods are speaking." Then one evening, a stranger walked into Ilaro. He was cloaked in brown cloth, with silver rings on his fingers and a staff, etched with symbols, older than the village itself. He introduced himself as Ayelabi, a traveler from the east, seeking only rest before continuing his journey. But the whispers of the prince's illness reached him, and he asked to see the king. At first the guards refused, but something in Ayelabi's eyes made them change their minds. Before the throne of Oba Adetokunbo, he bowed slightly and said, "Kabiesi, I have heard of your son. I have the gift to help, but only if you permit me." The king, desperate and weary, agreed. "If you can save my son, I will give you anything, lands, gold, even a title. Just name it." Ayelabi said nothing more. That night he made sacred drawings in the palace shrine, lit incense that smelled of thunder, and placed 7 golden eggs at the prince's bedside. For 7 nights he chanted while the palace held its breath. On the morning of the 7th day, Prince Adesina opened his eyes and sat up, weak but breathing, alive. Cheers erupted. Drums were beaten in the square. The villagers sang songs of joy. The king rushed to thank the stranger, but Ayelabi only said, "Kabiesi, I ask nothing today. But remember, I will return one day to ask for my reward. And when I do, I must not be refused." He bowed and walked away, leaving behind only his staff's imprint in the earth. 7 years would pass before the people of Ilaro understood the true price of the prince's healing and the god's justice. In the quiet village of Keorogun, nestled among whispering trees and ancestral stones, lived a humble farming couple, Baba Agba and Ayalabi. They had once known sorrow deeper than the earth, the death of their newborn child. But on that very day, fate brought them a boy. He came not in royal cloth, not with gold or titles, only in swaddling linen and quiet desperation. 2 strange men had arrived at their compound, carrying a weak woman who had just given birth. Her name was Funmi, and death sat on her shoulder. "Please," she whispered, her breath fading fast. "Save my son. I won't live, but he must." The 2 strange men in disguise nodded gravely. "Raise him as yours. No one will ever come for him. This child must vanish from the world he was born into." Moments later, she was gone. The men handed over the child, said nothing more. and left with the lifeless body of the woman and another baby, already dead. "We'll tell them this was hers," they muttered, and that heaven judged her. From that day, the boy became Ayelabi, meaning one born at a strange time. The couple never spoke of that day again until 10 years later, when the signs could no longer be ignored. That Harmattan evening, under the old Iroko tree, they sat him down. "You are not ours by blood," his mother said gently. "You came to us through tears and mystery. Your mother begged us to keep you safe, and the men swore no one would come for you. But we always knew your path would not end here." Baba Agba leaned in. "When the time comes, you will feel a pull, a journey will call you. And when you reach the land of your true beginning, you will see a sign." Ayelabi was silent, but from that day he began to dream of fire, of thrones, of a woman crying beside a stream. By the age of 15, he could no longer resist the urge. He set off, staff in hand, led only by visions and a force he could not name. Eventually, his feet led him to Ilaro, where he witnessed a young prince his own age dying of a mysterious illness. The moment he saw Prince Adesina, something stirred deep within him. An unspoken recognition, a strange ache. He stepped forward. He healed the prince. He used 7 golden eggs, sacred words that came to him not from learning, but from the very blood in his veins. He told the king only, "I ask for no reward today, but I will return for it one day, and I must not be refused." Then he returned to Wake Oregon and told his parents, "I healed a boy in a great palace, a prince like me, but I didn't want to leave. I felt like I belonged there." Yelabi's eyes filled with tears. "Then the sign has come," she whispered. "The land has called you, and soon the truth will rise." But Ilaro was not ready yet. 22 years before Ayelabi stepped foot in Ilaro, the palace had witnessed a scandal buried under royal silence. At the time, Queen Morenike, wife of Oba Adetokunbo, had long struggled with childlessness. The gods had not opened her womb, and whispers of her barrenness danced around the palace like smoke. In his loneliness, the king sought comfort in the arms of a palace maid, Funmi, a kind girl whose beauty was quiet, whose loyalty never wavered. What began as a secret became a shame when her belly began to grow. When Queen Morenike found out, her fury could not be contained. "She has mocked my crown with her womb," she screamed. "She cannot live to raise a child born of shame." The king tried to reason with her, but her heart was poisoned with jealousy. She left the palace in secret and traveled to a distant village, dressed like a widow, hiding her royal identity. There she met a humble man, young, handsome, and oblivious to her true status. In her bitterness, she lay with him and became pregnant. When she returned to the palace, she concealed her condition as long as she could. "The gods have smiled on me," she told the king. "I carry your heir." But she had not forgotten Funmi. "You promised to protect me," the maid had pleaded when the queen demanded her death. "She will not die," the king declared, "until she births the child. Then I will decide her fate." When the time came, the queen ordered that Funmi be sent away, under guard to deliver in secret. The 2 guards sworn to silence. They were to return with her and the child, after which she would be executed. But the gods had a different plan. In a small bush village, Funmi gave birth to a son. That same night, in the same village, a couple lost their newborn. In desperation and grief, Funmi begged the guards, "Give my son a chance. Let this couple raise him. Let him live, even if I must die." The guards hesitated, but seeing her agony and perhaps feeling guilt, they agreed. The grieving couple accepted the child Ayelabi with broken hearts but open arms. The guards returned to Ilaro, with the corpse of Funmi and the dead infant from the couple, claiming she had died in childbirth and the baby with her. Queen Morenike, believing she had won, laughed cruelly. "Heaven is on my side," she said. "Even the gods defend my throne." And so her own child, conceived in secrecy, was declared the rightful prince. Adesina. He was raised with splendor, trained as the heir, and worshipped like a god. But arrogance grew where humility should have been. No one knew the truth. Prince Adesina was not of royal blood. The true heir, hidden in a humble village, was growing under the name Ayelabi, and the gods had not forgotten. 7 years had passed since Ayelabi healed Prince Adesina with the 7 golden eggs. In that time, Ilaro prospered. The crops flourished, the markets bustled, and the prince, though once humbled by illness, had grown into a full man. His arrogance had returned with his health, more polished now, but just as proud. But deep in the hearts of the villagers, and even among the palace elders, whispers remained. That boy who healed him, he said he would return. And return he did, one calm evening, as the sun painted the village in warm amber. Ayelabi, now 22, taller, broader, and cloaked in quiet power, walked into Ilaro once again. The guards at the gate blinked at the sight of him, unsure why their hearts beat faster. When he stood before Oba Adetokunbo in the royal court, the king recognized him at once. "The boy healer," the king said, rising from his stool. "You have returned." "Yes, Kabiesi," Ayelabi replied, bowing. 7 years ago, you promised me anything I desired in exchange for healing your son. I have come to claim my reward. The court grew tense. "Speak, my son," the king said, though unease began to cloud his eyes. "What do you ask for?" Ayelabi paused. He looked directly at Prince Adesina, who sat beside the throne, smirking faintly. Then he spoke. "I asked to be made heir apparent to the throne of Ilaro." Gasps rippled through the court. "You jest," one elder cried. "This is sacrilege," barked another. "There is already a prince," shouted yet another voice. But Ayelabi stood firm, calm as the river after rainfall. "I do not ask this lightly," he said. "I claim only what is mine by promise and by destiny." Oba Adetokunbo was shaken. His eyes fell upon his son, then back to the young man who had once saved that son's life. "Why do you make such a request?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Because," Ayelabi said slowly, "the gods have shown me that the crown was never meant for him. If he sits upon that throne, he will die." A stunned silence fell. Even the queen, who had entered quietly, froze where she stood. Ayelabi bowed. "You may not believe me now, Kabiesi, but refuse me, and the price will be blood." He turned and walked out of the court, leaving behind a kingdom in turmoil. That night, the elders gathered in secret. Diviners were summoned. The Oba fell into deep thought. And Queen Morenike? She did not sleep, because she knew the past she buried had begun to rise. The palace of Ilaro was in unrest. Ayelabi's return had stirred a storm that no guard could contain. Make him heir? Over Prince Adesina? What madness is this? But Oba Adetokunbo could not ignore the unease in his spirit, nor the dream he had the night after Ayelabi left the court. A river split in two, a crown floating downstream, and a woman in white whispering, "One is shadow, the other is light." In fear and confusion, the king summoned the council of elders. They agreed. Divination was the only path to clarity. The next day, the greatest Babalawo from across Yoruba land gathered in the palace courtyard. Sacrifices were made, kola nuts were cast, cowries thrown, a goat was slaughtered. Incantations filled the air as the diviners entered trance. Then came silence. The chief priest Baba Awo rose slowly, eyes wide with revelation. "Kabiesi," he said, "a great evil was committed in this palace 22 years ago. The blood of truth cries from the soil." The elders leaned forward. The queen stood trembling. The one you call Prince Adesina, the king said softly. He is not of your blood. Gasps echoed through the palace walls. And the boy who came with healing hands? Ayelabi. He is the seed of this throne. Hidden, exchanged, forgotten, but not by the gods. The Baba Awa turned toward the queen. You, Olori Morenike, who traded shame for silence, who fed pride and buried truth, you wear a crown not blessed by the ancestors. Queen Morenike fell to her knees. Lies, she screamed. He was mine. I birthed the heir. But the guards who once carried Funmi came forward, now old, guilt written on their faces. We exchanged the baby, one said, voice shaking. The real mother begged us. We could not let that child die. The king stood, his face pale. And the woman? She took poison after kissing the child. Her last words were, tell him someday that he was loved. A deathly silence gripped the court. Oba Adetokunbo turned slowly to the queen. You executed a woman out of jealousy. Lied to me. Lied to the people. You placed a stranger on my throne. He raised his hand. The guard stepped forward. Take her. To where? She cried. To the village square, he said coldly. Let the people see the face of betrayal. She was dragged away weeping not just from shame, but from the knowledge that all her schemes had birthed ruin. After the queen's shameful confession and public judgment, Ilaro stood frozen in disbelief. The villagers whispered behind closed doors. Songs of truth began to spread, some praising the gods, others mourning the lies that had ruled them for 2 decades. But one figure had not spoken a word since the revelation. Prince Adesina. The boy once hailed as a gift from heaven, now sat alone in the inner chamber, stripped of his silks and titles. He stared blankly at the floor, his pride shattered, his identity stolen by the winds of truth. When the king summoned him, he came without resistance. You are not my son, the king said gently, but you were raised in this palace. You bore my name, you ate from my table. I loved you as mine. Adesina swallowed, pain thick in his throat. Then why does it feel like I am now nothing? Oba Adetokunbo stepped closer. You are not nothing, but you are not a prince either. The bloodline must speak, and the gods have spoken. Adesina nodded slowly. Then I will leave. Where will you go? Where no one calls me prince, and no one pities me. That evening, Adesina packed only what he needed. No servants followed him. No trumpets were blown. He passed through the village gates as a ghost, once adored, now forgotten. Some wept for him, others did not. As he vanished into the forest road, he whispered to the wind, May Ayelabi rule better than I ever would. The following morning, a different energy filled the air. Drummers gathered at the palace square. Elders sat in rows, their staffs in hand. The people of Ilaro, dressed in white and coral beads, came to witness a history they never expected. The crowning of Ayelabi, child of prophecy, son of silence, now revealed as the true heir. But when he was summoned before the court, Ayelabi paused. I did not return to take power, he said. I only wanted the truth. The crown is not my desire, the elders urged him. You are chosen, not just by blood, but by the gods. Your healing hands, your noble heart. The land speaks your name. Ayelabi looked to the sky. He remembered the woman in his dreams, the one by the stream, the one who cried. Then I will not wear this crown for glory. I will wear it for her, the one who gave her life for mine. Oba Adetokunbo removed his crown, stepped down, and placed it gently upon Ayelabi's head. Let all who dwell in this land know, he declared, that from this day forth, Oba Ayelabi reigns. The drums thundered, the people sang, and in the wind perhaps the spirit of Funmi smiled. The kingdom of Ilaro, once divided by secrets and deception, found healing under the reign of Oba Ayelabi. He ruled not with the pride of royalty, but with the heart of a servant. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words carried the weight of truth. He abolished harsh taxes, restored forgotten villages, and brought in wise women and men to serve in his royal council. Let no child grow up questioning their worth, he once said, and no woman die for the shame others force upon her. Under his rule, festivals returned to Ilaro. Festivals not just to honor the gods, but to celebrate truth, identity, and justice. The two guards who had saved him as a baby were honored publicly and granted land. The couple who raised him were given chieftaincy, titles, and lived the rest of their days in peace and honor. As for Adesinya, no one truly knew where he went. Some say he became a hunter in a distant land. Others say he joined a monastic order in the hills, devoting his life to silence and penance. But in his absence, no curses followed him. Ayelabi never once spoke his name in anger. Only once during a festival did he say, "Some kings are made by crowns, others are made by fire. He was my fire." The story of Funmi, the maid who died to save her son, was turned into a folk song, passed from mothers to daughters, from griots to drummers. Omoaye Omoaso, born not in palace but born with crown, swaddled in sorrow, carried by fate. He rose from ashes to open the gate. The old king, Oba Adetokunbo, died peacefully 5 years into Ayelabi's reign, finally at peace, and the memory of Queen Morenike faded, like mist spoken of only as a warning of pride turned poison. Ayelabi ruled for many seasons, and when he was old, he said to his council, "Let the next king not be chosen by womb alone, but by wisdom." And so, the cycle of blind inheritance was broken forever. The land remembered him not as Oba Ayelabi the Great, but as Omo Aye, the child of destiny.
Thanks for joining for today. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. Let's meet again in another tale.